everybody. My name is Jalen Pachenik, your host for the stream this week. We're joined, of course, on the couch again by our CEO and founder, Dennis Dyack.
Hello.
And this week, for our playthrough of Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, we're joined by a very special guest from our own community. Can you say hello, Warlord Kev?
Oh, special guest. I'm privileged. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Yeah,
for joining us.
it's our pleasure to have you on.
Delighted to be here.
Will be asking the questions on the stream today, so we can hopefully play through and possibly finish Blood Omen Legacy of Kain today on this stream. Ian had to take over on the couch for me last week while I was away, and I believe right now we are on our way to William the Just's castle to go finish him off.
I think you're right just before the boss fight of him.
Pardon me?
You're literally right just before the boss fight of him, if I see
Perfect.
right.
Yep, I think that's correct.
Thanks, Ian. I appreciate that. Starting me off right in front of the boss. I'll find some magic, and here we go. Secrets first.
Well, he killed the boss and all for you.
Did he do it already? I guess so. Yeah, there's not a whole lot.
Ian might have killed the boss. He's busy working away right now, so he can't get his attention.
Back out of the castle then. So Warlord Kev, on the stream, I'm sure you've watched this before. What questions do you have for Dennis?
I did indeed, yes. I was chatting to a few of my team and had a few little interesting ones as well. Most, a few of them basically seem together. So the one we mostly on ask was the original Blood Omen. There was a shield icon. What was your original interpretation for that? Did you have plans to shield?
There were multiple. So for every icon that there was a spell, of course. And the shield icon, I think, was a physical shield, but wouldn't stop you from magical attacks. So we had different types of shields in mind and different types of spells, and we couldn't get them all in, but we had done all the iconography and artwork for it, so we just put them throughout the level. But that's what that was. The shield was straight up armor, and different from this shield, which is like I guess a force shield that pretty much stops everything.
Yeah, the repel. Yeah.
Yeah. So
did it have like special attributes to it, or mixed with any kind of certain armor?
It was basically to be physical, to stop physical attacks. There was going to be multiple different types of shields, and I think in the end we ended up putting repel in and just have it be a cover just because of time.
Yeah,
So,
I remember in Alpha there was like two versions of repel, one for magic, one for physical type of damage.
Yep, and so those were that even might have been the spell. I'd have to look at it, but that's what I remember off the top of my head. So
Very nice. It's good to know that there was originally ideas for it.
oh yeah. For every one of those icons, there was a planned spell.
I'm so thankful for the repel shield, honestly.
It's probably the best spell in the game.
Oh, it
frankly,
saved my ass so many times now.
I think if you combined repel with chaos armor, you were basically invincible.
yeah.
You could literally just stand there and let them damage themselves just by hitting you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a lot smoother.
Yep.
In fact, I think in some cases it probably made it a bit too easy. Then once you had both of them.
Too easy? No. I still managed to die in this game somehow.
Well, by today's standards, well, I don't know. I guess there was a period in time where the games were harder, then they got super easy, and now with things like Bloodborne and Dark
That's it.
Souls,
Yeah, I suppose like the Dark Souls and such. And all,
those are hard.
probably seems a lot easier to them.
Yeah. So those games are kind of like punishment games, I guess. Where we didn't want this to be a punishing game, we thought it was quite easy, and it was more about just getting through and telling people a good story. That's what we were trying to do when we were creating this game. It seems to have worked. I think people, in general, when they play the game, that's what they're looking for. So
That's it. Yeah. Plus the story itself basically just drives the sheer force of the game.
Yeah, it's really great to hear that after all this time. When we first started making this game, this was our first story-based game, and we had never made a game like this before at all. And
I can honestly say that probably for a lot of the fanning community, that even though what Amy Hennig done with the following series was amazing, but it was basically your idea that started the whole thing, that brought what many believe to be one of the best story-driven series that has ever been made.
oh, thank you. That's amazing to hear. It's very flattering.
By the sheer fact of like 26 years later, it's still got a fan base and people following.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, I like been hanging out in the Legacy of Kain communities, obviously, and like even that puzzle that people still cared about after 24 years. I was like, wow.
That's it. I mean, how many games these days now? I've got like a. It's probably one of the most known secrets in gaming that just no one knew how to actually unlock.
Yeah.
It took 24 years to actually be found out. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. How long it took, but that there was that much dedication to finding it.
Yeah. Like that was also actually one of the questions. I think one of the group had was also was there actually a backstory for the ships? Was there like a
everyone's going to ask this now? Now that the puzzle's solved, there is, but I'm not going to keep that to myself.
Oh.
Well,
actually, I was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was actually going to say I may chat to you a little more about that off screen then, because I actually had, in terms of for the remake, originally my thought was now, because like I said, it is such a well-known secret.
Yeah.
That basically making it an unlockable secret in the remake would be a bit pointless, because so many know about it now, especially even now that it's been unlocked again. So I was actually toying with the idea now of actually making it part of the game.
Yeah.
You know, like giving Kain a reason to go to the ship.
Oh,
to maybe,
adding some content. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because I believe there was a couple of cities like Port Town and Weirstein or something, I think it was called.
Yep.
That were actually like cut from the original game.
Yes.
So we're thinking of maybe like including those into the game.
Cool.
And Kain having to go there, and having some sort of story.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't want to give too much concepts and ideas we're having away. So we would have a reason to go to them cities, chat to a couple of the NPCs, or certain ideas and things would come to him to go to the ship. Then he would go to the one ship and then the other destroyed ship as well.
Yeah.
We had an idea of just bringing it actually into the game and into the actual story itself. Without it being a unlockable secret that basically everyone knows about.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's why I have to admit, that's one of the biggest things that inspires me for Dead House is the idea. And I know a lot of people, and we have to show the community that this is what we're doing. And I think some of the things we're working on that we're just starting to finish today, actually, to show that the game is not only narrative driven, but that you can have narrative driven stuff in the free to play area. But the great thing about what we're doing is a living, breathing environments. So the kind of things you could, like the stuff we're talking about now, Kane's been out, for 24 years, and there really hasn't been any alterations to it. Whereas when you have something online, you can constantly be iterating, and that would be amazing if Dead House Sonata's around for 24 years, but we could have this conversation where you and I could literally just work on it and put it in, because we have the ability to update things online, and you have this possibility of doing all these emergent narrative
things you never thought possible back in the day.
Yeah, it was.
Have opened up now.
Yeah, it's not possible, and that's one of the things you can get with an online game that you absolutely cannot get with a premium game. If you're online, we can do these kind of things, and that's why I'm really excited about the narrative in Dead House, because, I've written, there's Two Human, Eternal Darkness, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, and by and large, people really like those stories, but having the ability to revisit them and make them living and breathing, we're really taking people back to the days, of Shakespeare, where Shakespeare would iterate, or the group, or the troupe, whoever wrote those stories, would iterate on the plays after feedback from the audience. And that's what we have an ability to do here. You know, some stories, of course, become classic and locked in, but there'll be others like this where it's just like, well, what if we did this? What if we did this? I think that's very powerful.
Is it? You always just say, like, what can we add to
Yeah.
improve it later on?
Yeah.
There's always an extra area of a map that can be increased and expanded upon.
Well, I think personally, and I've said this before in a few earlier streams, that community involvement and community-driven content makes your game significantly better. And I'd like to use Game of Thrones as an example. A lot of people, big fan of the series on TV, big fan of the books. A lot of people feel that season 8 was a big letdown because George R.R. Martin didn't finish the script, or didn't finish the books, obviously, or the showrunners wanted to go over to Star Wars. I'm not going to debate any of those, and I think those are, you know, probably valid and accurate to some extent, or could be anyway. But
There's always a constraints of some description.
yeah, but one of the things that people aren't thinking about, or too often, at least I haven't heard it said anywhere, once that TV series came out, the hundreds, if not thousands, of YouTube channels started popping up where people are describing the plot, where they think it's going to go, what the motivations are for the characters. And then within a couple years of that series being out, you see interviews with George R.R. Martin saying, they're starting to guess my story. Some of these stories are better than what I'm coming up with. You have thousands of people coming up with these great stories that are doing better than the showrunners and then the actual author of the book himself. And I think that that's not a surprise to me. I think that that shows what you can do in an emergent online world when it comes to storytelling. So
Absolutely, it's even happening with the Legacy of Kain series with all the fan fictions. There's been
exactly.
I've there's a fella I know, like Tom Campbell. He's made some absolutely amazing fan fictions. It's like a series of 5 to 7 books that have all followed on, like right after Defiance did.
Wow.
And it's as you're reading them, you can kind of see it in your head as like a game to actually play. I've even spoken to the fella. I've told him if Square Enix ever allowed me the IP of Legacy of Kain for like leasing it and such.
Yeah.
I'd use his stories as like, you know, the concepts for many of the ideas of it. It's just that amazing.
I would love
he's
to
got,
check
like,
that stuff
even,
out.
Even the voice art. I'll send you the we linked it. And
Yeah,
after the stream, it's got absolutely amazing books.
that would be awesome. And so one of the things that we're doing for Dead House is we're going to release the tools to the community, so those kind of things can be done within the world. So if people hopefully like the universe enough and they're like, hey, this is pretty cool, I'd like to write some stories, it would be awesome to get that in the game. And to be clear, we're not looking to be freeloaders. We're going to allow people to monetize it, right? So
Cough, Blizzard, cough.
yeah, well, we don't have to mention any names, but you know, the bottom line is, if it's good content, people will pay for it. And if
That's it.
yeah, so I know I've never heard of these before, but I'd like to read them just for interest. I'd love to see what people are thinking in the universe. So
Well, I'll send you like those. They're absolutely. I've read them multiple times because, like, even as you're reading them, though, like he has like the wee, like deeper font, you know, for like even a voiceover type of thing,
right,
where you can actually hear Simon Templeman's voice, you know, as you're reading it.
wow,
Literally just down to the verbiage. It's the work he put into it was absolutely amazing. He still has to finish the series, like, because he's been at it for quite a while. But each one just unlocks so much more, and he goes back to various things.
so that's very cool.
He even brought up, without even giving away hints, he talked about how the Serioli.
Oh yeah,
How it actually turns out that the Serioli are actually ancient vampires of, you know, olden times.
Huh.
And they actually passed their lore on to the humans, so after the rise of the pillars and such and all. So it was just
interesting.
small wee details like that there, but just, you know, it added so much more to the world, like, to make you remember and it brought so much more out to actually think, oh, so that's where there could have been a backstory, you know, to the Serioli themselves.
Oh, there's so much unexplored territory in this game. We created a ton of characters, and we wanted to explore them a lot more, you know. And obviously, we moved on to other games, but that's the whole idea when you do this type of world building. And you look at Lord of the Rings as another. Not to say we're in the same category as Lord of the Rings. Tolkien's amazing, but you look at all of the stories, like his son later on did with the Cimmerillion and other tales, and then you look at Lovecraft as another really good example where people are just telling Lovecraftian stories, and I just think that that is the future of storytelling. So the medium's always the message, and the new medium of video games has become online, whether we like it or not. That is now today's reality. So if that's there's going to be some, of course, negatives with every change, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives, and there's so much potential in where we can go with it. So
there's a lot of creativity. It gives people a source of actually where to put it all.
Yep, 100%.
In fact, that actually brought me to another idea one of my team had. Kain the Vampire Lord wanted to ask.
Yep.
Did you have any original plans for a sequel of Blood Omen?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What kind of ideas or plans did you have for
These are things
Elder
I never talk about. So, I kept them all, and I'm bad that way. I in a case.
Just for future reference, just in case.
Well, I keep a lot of these stories in my head until I put them down into paper. A lot of the reason this was the whole thing about Nosgoth and the Pillars of Nosgoth was to be a very small part of the story compared to where it was going to go, and there were a reason for some of the things that were happening. There were many gods at play, many things going on that were meant to open up beyond the first game. And but yeah, it was meant to be a grand tale, and it just definitely went in a completely different direction than I would have taken it, and I know everyone loves it, and so it's not a criticism of that direction. It's just my just basically creative preferences are more towards sort of Tolkien-esque world building, where I think Amy's and Crystal took it towards the 3-act structure. Aristotle's products were, I think the world, she really focused on characters a lot, and that's fine, and that's a good way to go, but I would have gone a completely different direction. It would have been building the world, adding to the world more and more, bigger and bigger.
Building the characters around the world, not the world around the character type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a big fan of things like Babylon 5 and really where you can describe the world as a character itself. And so that's how different it would have been. So imagine Nosgoth being like a very small part of where the story was going to go. And it was sort of the start of a massive epic adventure was the idea of where we wanted to take it. So I'll be exploring many of these concepts and ideas in Dead House Sonata. Hopefully that'll start to come out as we go. We're starting to release narrative for it, but I just think that you got to go where your heart takes you, and when you're creating video games, when you're creating any kind of entertainment, you never know if you're going to please anyone. So if you make something that you like yourself, you're guaranteed to please at least one person, which is my advice to you guys when you're doing in your team what you're doing, when you're thinking about doing these things that we were talking about earlier. If you like it, do it. Why not?
Just go.
Yeah,
try it out.
Yeah.
Don't succeed or fail.
Well, in some sense, what's the way I can describe? I have to, we were told so many times while we were making Legacy of Kain that we didn't know what we were doing, that this was going to fail. So much to the point where it actually became comical, and we just didn't care. All that we sort of went upon, when everyone tells you that this is very difficult, that you can't do it, because back then all the RPGs were done in Japan basically on the consoles. Nowhere in the West was anyone making an RPG. So we were just like, this isn't done. And why are you doing this? And we're like, because we want to. And
Yeah.
you know,
Even the technical aspect alone would have been
Oh, yeah.
a lot harder even back then. Whereas
Oh, yeah.
nowadays, like there's access to Unreal Engine, Unity, Lumberyard,
yep.
just various places now that people can
Oh yeah,
get access to that kind of thing.
all the tools we wrote from the ground up here. Absolutely, 100%. The map
Wow.
editor, everything. Oh yeah, this is all custom. I was the one that did all the lighting and the time of day, and I was actually the lead programmer on this project too. So it was crazy.
That was actually one of the things I was working on just last night was a weather system as well for our version 2. It's an absolute nightmare. getting the clouds dimming right now for the start of the rain, then brightening up afterwards, just all that kind of thing.
Takes a
It'd be an
lot.
absolute nightmare. It does, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
In fact,
yeah.
it even reminds me of I was chatting to a fellow last night, the Hilden. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his models
Yeah, I have.
online. He has done some amazing
Yeah. He has.
models online.
Yeah.
I was chatting to him last night because I was showing him a sculpt I was making of my new version of Kain.
Yeah.
So I'm working on like a more higher resolution version because my original one was very low.
Mm-hmm.
And we were both talking about his actual in the original Blood Omen, how his forehead kind of increased in size,
Mhm.
and like it turns from like his human form to his vampire form. Was that a deliberate choice, or was it basically just like due to the low poly count of models you could have back then?
There was certainly some stylistic things for sure, but there was a lot of limitations on the polygons too. So
Yeah.
I would say a combination of both.
Bit of a combination, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have like an original like picture in your head of how the Elder Kain would look? Was it anything like what he became then in the Soul Reaver series?
No, that's totally different. Kain. A huge inspiration for me was Michael Moorcock and Elric, and I understand. We had back then we were a pretty small team, and we didn't really have what I would say a consistency in art direction per se.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the choices in design were simply the artist did it that way.
Is he spitball and see how it went then?
Yeah, and because we were doing like so many, like there's a lot of enemies in King, and these are all 3D rendered, so we were doing them quite fast. So
I was actually surprised because I was recently restreaming to a lot of the Legacy Kain series
Yeah.
on my page,
yeah,
and it actually struck me as I played a lot of the later 3D games of just how small the actual limitation there was for enemies. It was like the shadows, the Su'a, just
yeah,
it was the limitation was there, just how many enemies they had. Whereas in the original Blood Omen, then you could even see now you had the knights, you had the armies of hope, you had the blood hunters, you had all the vampires. There was just a wider range of enemies in the original Blood Omen.
oh yeah, that's a lot bigger. That's that's what I was. The whole sort of direction, not art direction, the whole world building direction in Legacy of Kain is very different than the latter ones, and we had. Like I think there's like hundreds of characters, enemies probably. There's a lot.
I've noticed.
Yeah, so, and that is what we wanted to do. We just kept making them, and we planned like lots and lots and lots and lots. But that's in a real world. That's what you get, and that's the end of you.
One thing I've always got to ask: what was the then we orange creatures that fire the projectiles, the homing projectiles?
Yeah.
Are they like demons or wizards? What was their actual design? I'm always thinking now, how am I going to make these guys up now in the new version?
I would have to see. Are they the ones? They don't look like fire elementals. So they kind of look like clowns.
Yeah, it's like they're kind of like levitating type of ones. The wee orange ones, the fire, the wee homing missiles. You see them in the temple.
Yeah,
the energy temple.
I think they're like fire elementals. But I would have to look. We had some. So one of the things we were doing too is we were doing some homages to our previous game, which was Dark Legions. So if you look at the demons in Legacy of Kain, they're identical to the demon in Dark Legions in design.
Oh,
Yeah. So I would say reference Dark Legions for sure. You'll see all they just do, on the internet. You don't have to play the game. But Dark Legions was basically sort of our love letter to Archon, which was one of my favorite games of all time. And ironically, while I was working on Legacy of Kain, I got to meet some of the guys who made Archon, and the Toys for Bob guys, good guys, and so a lot of the times we'd be like, hey, let's throw in as many characters as we can from Dark Legions into Legacy of Kain. Now, in Dark Legions, they were all hand animated; they weren't 3D models, but a lot of the designs we just pulled over for fun. Because
I would love to have seen some of the original model designs.
Well, there's 3D models for all of these characters somewhere. I think they might have been lost.
Oh,
I think they
you're
might have been
I'd
lost.
love to see them. I would absolutely love to see them.
Yeah, so these were all done in 3D. I know we don't have them anymore, but someone had them somewhere. So
They'll be locked in a wee hard drive somewhere, a wee floppy disk or something.
yeah, I think it got lost.
I think we got in Reservo here is actually asking, what was your favorite character creation in the original Blood Omen?
Favorite character? That's a tough one. Is as in sort of major characters or just enemies in general?
I think they might make a. They'll either mean in like terms of like what was your favorite to actually make up, or which one did you actually prefer the most in the game. They didn't really specify much.
Okay, well, I would say my favorite character is Mobius, the time streamer, because his power, which is obviously super powerful, being a time streamer, but his power was more than that. It was really the power of persuasion and how dangerous that can be. And
Yeah, it's sheer Machiavellian.
yeah, Machiavellian, the Machiavellian nature of what he says, how he can poison people's minds to do terrible things. And this is a boss fight, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Even in the stream right now, you see how he just turned an entire village into just
Yeah,
bloodthirsty savages.
yeah, exactly. And, so that was my favorite character, I guess. That and yeah, I think that was my favorite character if I was to pick one from Blood Omen. I just think that is I just thought it was an interesting character. Back then, you didn't see too many characters like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, it's me.
it is you. Yes, he's creating images.
Did you have like a favorite location as well as characters, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. So we're in it right now. So my favorite thing that we did location-wise, there's a couple that I really like, but my favorite location is this area with the Colossus, actually, and showing the 3 different timelines of building the Colossus, having it fully built, and then having it destroyed, as we just saw Jalen, who just recently just passed it. I think. I guess that's the thing with me when I think about Eternal Darkness as well, showing the passage of time and how much things can change and how much people can forget and how much is lost and forgotten over time. I think are pretty important things for humanity and the human race in general. And so to me, I find them very provocative, and so that's why I like this particular level. Also, of course, you fight this army, and despite you totally, kicking ass as a vampire, you still lose the battle. And
Yeah.
I wanted people to think about that because, sometimes winning, the parameters of winning are not within possibility, so you have to deal with that. And when that happens, what does that mean? We did that a lot again in Eternal Darkness as well. I don't know if you played that game, but some of the boss battles we don't let you fight; we just kill you.
I think I played that when it originally came out, but it's been so long now. I've just
Yeah.
basically forgotten absolutely everything about it.
Huh. Okay, fair enough.
But in fact, Smoke Ramadan is here is actually asking the thing. I think probably a lot of people have always wondered is why is future Kain trying to kill past Kain? Did you have a like a wee storyline in mind for why this was happening at the time?
I would say no. I would well. So if you see yourself and you see an image of yourself,
Like the mythos of doppelgangers type of thing?
yeah. So it's if there's two of you, and there can only be one of you, the immediate thing that you're going to want to do is kill someone. There really wasn't much to it besides just to have people start thinking about, what would this mean, and has the future Kain been poisoned by, the time streamer? And the answer is yes, he has. And so thinking about how that could have happened, just to show that Kain is also susceptible to what he's doing, and to make, really Mobius even more powerful. So that was the idea behind that. So it's more that he's been poisoned, and he's been told that you're going to come back and you have to kill yourself in order to save the world. So Kain believes this. So he's being told, he's been given exactly the same motivations that Kain currently has, except they've been twisted, and he's been literally been turned 180 to try to kill himself.
Again,
So,
right?
yeah, so it's just it's a paradox, I guess. It's sort of a paradox storyline. That's how I would describe that. So, is
Which actually does happen a few times in the series, so it would actually
yeah,
fit very well.
yep. That's kind of the idea that was what the idea with that was. So that's why it's there. So really, is there a reason? Well, the reason is Mobius has convinced him that he has to die, that version has to die in order to save the world. So that's what Kane's doing.
I think one of my thoughts was always because of the fact that he was we had this version of Kain who was wielding a single one-handed battle axe. Like he was more of a. I always thought it was like he was an illusion created by Mobius type of though to kind of mess with Kane's head.
Well, it was a different version of Kain. We did have, I think, we did have at one point planned a single axe, and that might have been where that came from. It's hard to remember though, right? Because so long ago now. We had a lot of iterations of a lot of things that we ended up changing, combining, mixing.
A lot changes as you go along.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you have a? So did you have like plans of having Axe with like other characters? Maybe like some of the other characters like Vardor played?
Oh yeah,
Because he's
for
one,
sure.
he's one of my favorite characters. I would have loved to have had
Yeah?
a spin-off story, or even to make one myself, not just a
Well, I'm
spin-off story of his past.
I'm a big Warhammer fan, and on many levels. One, I think Warhammer also strongly influenced by Michael Moorcock with Chaos and Order and all of that kind of stuff. But the vampires in Warhammer are warlords, essentially. And they wield all kinds of weapons. And we're so... I guess at the time of Kain, and I guess still till today, there's a lot of programming in our heads like how vampires should be. And I remember thinking about Kain, I'm just going to he's just going to be a warlord, he's going to be a magic wielder, he's just going to be anything he wants to be. And so having multiple different weapons for some of the different characters on vampires was a big thing. And so I always started looking to add spells from a tactical level. So you can sort of think, well, what would Kain do? What would he use axes here for? He'll have a mace for this, and but really a warlord in the sense that, yeah, he's a vampire, but he also knows all the weapons really well. He's a master at arms as well as a master magician and a shapeshifter and all of these things combined. And that's what I thought, to me, made it so powerful. You're second.
You mentioned
Yeah, a
their
little bit.
different weapons. Did
Kain,
what
yeah.
was your original idea for the Bone Reaver?
Oh,
It's kind of like the one that Vardor has. there's always been talk online. Was it the Bone Reaver? Was it a different kind of Reaver? Or was there other ideas for that version that Mordor wins?
Yeah. So we had ideas of, twin swords and, other certain weapons, and vampires being around a long time will get very powerful weapons after a while. We didn't really expand upon the lore, but the bottom line for that stuff is, along the lines of what I just said, I give everyone as many weapons as they can, and there's many powerful ancient artifacts throughout the world, and even the Soul Reaver changed later, but the Soul Reaver is not the end all be all of weapons for the vampire because it just explodes everybody. And you can't get blood and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
it's that good for his diet.
yeah. So, and you're constantly dying, so you can't just use it all the time. So there is a downfall, even though it's so powerful.
I will say,
Beat
he
Kain.
was
Come on.
stuck in a wall for a second.
He's bugged out. Oh no, he's back out now. I was actually going to think that one of my members of our team is we're very much still contemplating the idea of making the remake of Open World, and many people have read online that your original idea was to have the entire map open world.
Yeah.
Would you still do that if you had the opportunity now?
The problem with open world is, and it's just a fact to keep in mind. It will massively increase your development time, and I think open world's really cool, but if you're gonna do it, it's gonna probably take you. You have to. It's orders of magnitude harder, just to. There you go. Just to complete the game, because you can revisit other areas and go back, and you have to deal with all the permutations. So be prepared for 5 to 10 times the amount. Would I do it if I had the budget to do this? Yeah,
but I am dead.
I think one of the things I kept it was myself and him. It was basically we were talking about it in the team, and my thought always was if it was open world, it would kind of mess with the flow of what we know of the lore of the story.
Oh,
the character could end up just killing one boss before he's meant to, type of thing.
Oh, so essentially, when you go to open world, you're creating a new game. Kain is has some Metroid aspects to it. You can revisit other areas, not all of them, obviously, but in the end. If you do an open world game, it's a completely different design. So, yeah, it all depends on what your goals are. If you're doing what some people would call a hard remake, where you want to keep to all the rules, then you absolutely should do it because it's not an open world game. If you want to do it, it's the same rule. Follow your heart on it. Yeah.
My kind of originally my concept was when I originally started was just a 1-for-1 type thing, only in third person. But as I got more and more into it, then started learning more of the engine and such. I got the idea that if maybe the world would be open, but the story would still be linear enough that you couldn't reach areas without killing the bosses in the right order that they had to be to keep with the lore in the story.
You could do that, I guess.
All of our minds.
One thing about the Legacy series was the story and lore it's very in depth in everyone's mind. So suddenly changing all that would really kick people out of this thing.
Yeah. Well, it's possible. It's up to you. You follow your heart on it. That's what I think. I think it certainly can work. It's open world but hard.
Back at the pillars, they're all put back together, but I have to deal with these guys now.
That's just another thing, watching these cinemas, I'm like, oh, wow. People told us that we couldn't do a lot of cinema because we weren't square, there's no way we could do this stuff, and we're like, we're just going to do it anyway. And
you're just like, hold my beer?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's hold my beer, but we just did it because we didn't...
That was always one of my favorite scenes there. We just see how brutal and mortinius could really be.
Oh, yeah.
To die as
Yeah, he's a nasty guy.
I admire
But,
your cunning,
yeah.
but you will not escape
Yeah.
your fate.
Nay, I will embrace it.
I was one of the things we're also working on was some of the.
Princely.
What would your idea be for
Finish me.
like Mortanius's boss fight these days? Because I know here, like, he basically just stands there and summons skeletons. Would you have other ideas for him?
Well, he's a necromancer. So, powers, at this point. Well, he also becomes
Yeah, the dark entity.
yeah. So it's I don't know. I would probably work on the mechanics and keep the theme if you want my advice. So, you know, he's got exploding skeletons and stuff, but see, that's the other thing too. A lot of Zelda influence here, right? Where the mechanics themselves are, you know, secondary to the diversity of the monsters. So, yeah, you got it, but it's not that easy.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
Necromancers, they just don't want to stay dead.
They don't stay down. They just keep coming back. Almost
What was
done,
your,
buddy.
was your
Almost.
what was your
There's-
original idea for the dark entity, which would later become the Elden? Did you originally have it? A concept for the Elden, or was
No.
that just
No, that's no.
they would just be the unspoken?
Well, so the Dark Entity was, this is a version, a physical version of the actual god itself, and this looks exactly like the demon from Dark Legions, literally. But a different color.
Is but the first act in my theater of wrong in your
The elder gods themselves are super powerful and are playing with mankind. But there's a reason they have their own motivations all throughout the hierarchy of the Ascendants and the Elders. They have their things that they're trying to get as well. So, looks like it was bugged out there.
Anacron's magic was contained in the metal of the scales and would
so,
eventually be released back into the pillar
definitely,
from whence it came. The scales of
we had some
Anacron
hints
I lay
on
before
what he
the
was, but
pillar
we were
of
really
Styx.
going to explore
The
that
pillar
in the
accepted
second
its
game.
offering.
That's
Thus,
where I would have
it
taken
was
it.
restored. The death orb of
and
Mortanius
what the
had
reason
given the
for the
necromancer
pillars are.
dominion over the grave. I had thought in the last.
So there was more ideas of sequels that would come with
yeah.
different, more different gods then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Many
interesting.
different, many different
It was
gods.
restored.
I think that's what makes the world rich. Just if you look at sort of the world in general, it's safe to say that there's a lot of enemies. You just imagine a whole pantheon of gods as well. That's how. That's where I would have taken this, and that's where I generally.
With their own forms of enemies you give
Oh yeah.
followers.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Got to do gods right, or elder gods. And that's sort of our sort of Lovecraftian sort of directions where it started going.
That would have been an interesting concept to see.
I would have liked
Did
to
you
see
did
it,
you
but
ever go over any of them ideas with Amy Hennig or?
No one knew about any of this. No one, never talked to them about it. They took it in a direction that they wanted to take it in. After, once we went our separate ways, we were working on Eternal Darkness, and they continued with this game, so, and the series, and they took it in the direction they took it. You know, so, yeah, so some of the things that they did, are theirs. Rotation, so certainly added to what we had originally created. Yeah, that was their vision.
Were the pillars still going to be like as vital to the land in your version? Or?
No. So the pillars were important to Nosgoth for sure. Centrifugal and super important. But the world would have went beyond Nosgoth at that point. So imagine Nosgoth is like an area in the world.
Like a region 1 type
Correct.
thing?
Yes. So they'd be important to that region, but there would be many
The
other
heart
regions.
of darkness.
Well, you got 24 left.
24 for the last fight. We'll see.
Did you plan for each region to have like their own,
Yes.
like I don't know if they all would have been the same, like circle of nines type of thing?
Well, each region would have been that. See, that's where I think it would have gotten really interesting.
Separate kind of ruling bodies, or
Yeah, for sure. It's just like any other country in the world, where they all have their different types of
The
governments
heart of
and their
darkness.
own regions for expansion and warfare and all of those kind of things. The pillars were a protection. They were protecting against something.
oh,
Yeah, so that was the idea.
and would you be willing to tell what that secret was, or
Nope, I'm gonna keep it.
was worth a try?
Probably
I had
talked
to
too
ask.
much already. So that's the idea.
Squeeze out the details.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So
It's like a truck when he comes out of the ground.
yeah, quit crying.
He doesn't do much damage as he goes in. It's always when he comes up, I think, was the huge hit of damage. Unless you also have like a
The
shockwave.
last boss, so I would hope he's a challenge. There.
Yeah.
Same.
I think I have like ideas for having like a shockwave attack type of thing.
Yeah. Well, we should have shown
That's
we should have shown the ring as it comes out. Look at this. Now you get your famous choice.
I am the last pillar, the only survivor of the Circle of Nine. At my whim, the world will be healed or damned. At
So
my
with the idea of different stories in future games,
Yep.
would your version of like followed on from the good ending, or what people call it like the canon bad ending?
It would have followed along from either. Either is it. We're gonna let the chat decide. That sounds good.
I was just about to say.
The if done properly, in my opinion, you should be able to accommodate for both. And choices matter. I know everyone thought that the good ending was the sort of Kain dies, so no one wants to take it, but Kain's already dead.
Yeah.
We haven't explored that fully, so when he becomes dead again, there's all kinds of
I
things.
think you built Kain a bit too well, where everyone really
Yeah,
identified with him. Then they just didn't want to see him come to an end.
yeah. I think the Destroy the World became more popular. Plus, it fit his personality. Damn the living.
Damn the living, huh?
Damn
I
the
think
dead.
they're going for canon.
They are.
I mean, if it's what the chat wants.
That's canon, I guess. That's the
Alright.
choice that Crystal made.
That is alright. Damn the living.
Once I embraced my
Press it.
Hate to see it happen.
the plan was correct.
Oh,
Throne
trust me,
of
the fans
bones.
loved it.
Throne of Bones.
Dark gods. And it is our duty to thin
Drinking
the
this
herd.
cup of blood.
There you go. Good job. Good
Wow.
job, Jalen.
So here we are.
Victorious.
As he always said, he cared not for the fate of the world. So
Yep. 466 meals.
882 mutilations. Secrets.
25% on every. Oh, you're a bride.
Aww.
Better than some of the other ratings.
Well, that's it. That's Blood Omen Legacy Kain. I think that's also where we're going to stop the stream for today. Now that we've finished this game, we'd like to thank you all for joining us on the stream. You especially, Warlord Kev. Thank you so much for joining us today.
oh, thanks for having me.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the chat or to Dennis before we end it for today?
Just if anyone wants to follow on to my project, just look for me on Facebook of Blood Omen Resurgence. You'll find it.
Oh, yeah.
And once
Awesome
again-
project. Check it out, everybody. It's really cool.
Do you have
Once again, I would
a
just like to
website or
say,
just a Facebook page to go to?
It's a Facebook page, the Blood Omen Resurgence, and it basically has all the links then to my YouTubes and Twitch and such. Then, so they'll find everything they need to find and follow along what I'm doing with the project. Then,
Okay, yeah, perfect. If you guys don't have enough Blood Omen Legacy of Kain content, please go check that out. Warlord Kev's doing some incredible work over there, so please go and support him.
thank you.
If you haven't already, please go check out our website, deadhousenonata.com. On it, we have a thread in our forums asking you guys what you would like to see us play next on stream. There's already been quite a few so far, but the poll isn't finished yet. So if you want your opinion heard about what we'll be playing next, please go check that out. And other than that, I think that's it. Next week, Dennis will not be joining us on the
No, I
couch.
will. I might be here. I don't know, maybe. I'm
We'll
not
see.
going away. All the trips have been canceled.
That's true.
Yes.
So we'll see.
March 20th, correct, is the next stream?
March
Same
20th
time?
at 4 p.m. EST, it should be. We should be streaming for another hour, maybe a little bit longer, but we'll see. There he is, director Dennis Dyer. Silicon.